Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege to welcome our first speaker on the topic of Australian Army leadership. We are honoured to welcome the Chief of Army, Lieutenant General Rick Burr, AO, DSC, MVO, who today will be providing a keynote address on Australian Army leadership and its application for an army in motion. Lieutenant General Burr's senior leadership roles have been diverse. He was previously the Deputy Chief of Army and prior to that had unique service as Deputy Commanding General, US Army Pacific, the first foreign officer to hold such a position. He's also served as Commander of the 1st Division and the Deployable Joint Force Headquarters. Lieutenant General Burr assumed command of the Australian Army on the 2nd July 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Lieutenant General Rick Burr.
That's right. Hey, thanks, Sam, and great to be here. Can I first of all congratulate Caitlin on what a wonderful articulation of something very special, the story of our Army and the sacrifice for our nation. Once again, thank you very much. Wonderful. Really, really good. Really special. That's inspirational leadership, and it's great that we're all here with that same shared purpose, and that is to talk about that great topic of leadership, something that I think we're all passionate about, all interested in, and all know how important it is for our Army, in particular our Army, but all of our military forces to have a clear understanding and a clear framework for leadership excellence. And really that's what today is all about. And can I congratulate Commandant of RMC, Brigadier Hoskin, for his appointment, which he couldn't refuse to accept, as the Director of Army Leadership, a new appointment, and his able helper Sam Padman for their leadership in setting up not just this inaugural seminar, but getting the Army Leadership Program underway and the work that's going on to build a leadership framework. That is the subject of this seminar over the next couple of days, to explore the various topics that will go into that and help us build and refine the framework, which we then need to execute. We need to operationalise and make sure that we can deliver excellent leaders through that program. You represent a diverse group of people, not from just across Army, but like-minded, passionate about leadership, as I said. You all bring something to this seminar. I'm grateful for your attendance and your participation over these 2 days, and look forward to your contribution. So please don't hold back. But also like to build on the fact that Caitlin introduced this, junior leaders. I had the great opportunity last night to have dinner with a select group of, I think, about 18 junior leaders just to chat about this same topic of leadership and for them to inquire about my views on certain things. And to me, that's really powerful. Junior leaders are our future, and it is their Army that they will inherit, and we need to make sure that we are doing all we can across all generations of leadership that exist in the Army at any one time to make sure that we're all aligned, we all understand each other, and work out how we can help each other to deliver those leadership outcomes. Right? We've all got strengths and weaknesses, we've all got unique perspectives based on who we are and not just what generation we're from, and understanding what is the enduring principles that go into strong leadership is really what we're all about here. So thank you for those that were at dinner last night. Represent the broad range of who we are. Full-time, part-time, male, female, all corps, all parts of the organisation and the broader defence organisation. People working in primarily civilian organisations in the Australian Signals Directorate, through to the pointy end of the Army, through to logistics support elements dealing with primarily joint organisations. Really reflects what we do every day. There is no one size fits all. There is no one work environment that we need to prepare for. That is why we need a leadership system that prepares leaders that can operate in any environment. Okay, so leadership, it's my favourite topic as well. I love it. It's we'll all have our own views, and there's all sorts of theory and there's all sorts of books that we've all read or written. But actually, for me, I'm not interested in that today. What I'm interested in is talking about how we build a leadership system that produce the leaders that you're thinking about. Leadership is a journey. It's something that we don't just arrive here into whatever jobs we're in. It's something that starts here at ADFA or down at Kapooka or across the road at RMC. And you build on it every day. You never stop learning. I learned a whole lot last night over dinner with 18 junior leaders, as I said. I learned something this morning when I opened up my email and read out what's going on in our army. You're always learning. You can never stop learning. You're always growing. And that idea of perpetual growth, perpetual learning is core to being a good leader. It is theory and it is practice. And giving people space to practice is a core part of the leadership journey. Leaders develop leaders. There are also a range of types of leaders. I think we talk about the traditional form of leader and in a team, a leader of a team. That is really what our model is all about. We're an army built around teams, and our leadership model really reflects that. But we also need to think about self-leadership. Leaders need to understand themselves. They need to lead themselves. They need self-discipline to grow as leaders and to grow others around them. But as I'm realising, and a number of others in the room are realising, there's also organisational leaders, where leaders need to lead leaders. We need teams of teams. We need a framework and systems to allow leadership to flourish across the entire organisation and at every level of the organisation. And as the Chief of the Army, that's what I'm doing as the leader of the Army, leading with a group of fellow generals and the senior warrant officer, the RSM of the Army, to lead the Army every day, who in turn lead across and down and through their organisations. We lead upwards to shape the organisation, the broader organisation that we are part of. And as an institutional leader of the Australian Army, I have a responsibility to understand the national responsibilities that I have to preserve this amazing institution which is our Army, which has a wonderful history, articulated again by Caitlin. And it is building on that trust with the nation, that trust with the community, preserving the legacy, the sacrifice of so many previous generations as we carry it forward is a key part of that. So again, a lovely way to open up by remembering where we've come from and who we are, and that we owe a debt of gratitude to them for their sacrifice and to build on their legacy every single day. It is a powerful and motivating force as we continue to channel that energy into the future. So that's why you'll hear a lot about me talking about the Army in the nation and the Army in the community. It is who we are. We reflect the nation, we reflect the community. We draw from the community. It is where we recruit from, it's where we come from, it's where our families live, it's where we will return to when we take off the uniform. We are part of the community every day, and we need to think like that so that we don't lose touch with who we are as an institution. We can't be separate from the society in which we serve. We need to earn their trust every day. We also need to prepare that Army for the future, and that's why in my language, again, we talk about not just ready now, but future ready. I have an obligation to be ready for the future. We need to provide options to government for all sorts of things every day, and we do. Our Army is busy, committed not just on operations but activities and important strategic tasks all around the world on any one day. But we also need to understand what it takes to be ready for the future, and that won't occur by itself. It needs leadership, it needs vision, it needs a plan, and it takes all of our efforts to deliver that plan. So an army that is ready now and future ready needs a vision, which I've articulated, Sam, if you've got to push the slide, through accelerated warfare. Accelerated warfare describes that future environment, which in many respects is already here, but is building and becoming more prominent, characterised by accelerated warfare, geopolitical change, technology, and the security implications of that, environmental changes, demographic changes, changes in other domains which traditionally haven't been part of our battle space. So all of those changes are happening in isolation, but also together. It is the convergence of all of these changes that are making our challenges even more real, even more difficult. And it's not just the convergence, but it's the pace of that change. Hence, accelerated warfare. It literally is accelerating. And we need to accelerate in response. An industrial age army with traditional ways of doing things may not be able to respond as a system or as people within that system to cope with those new challenges, which I said are real and are in fact already here in many respects. There is a saying which I like, that the future is already here, it's just unevenly distributed. Right? There are pockets where you can look at and go, that is the future right there, it's happening now, and that's the sort of thing we need to prepare for. So accelerated warfare is, I think, a pretty powerful way of just thinking about that future that our army needs to prepare for. But it's also more than just preparing for war, as we might have traditionally liked to think, that there is peace and that there is war. There is a continuum now where our army is active every day, and it's cooperation, it's in competition, and it's in conflict. And it's in all of those domains: land, sea, air, space, and cyber. It's in all of those domains, and potentially at different phases within each of those domains at different times. All at the same time. And that is the challenge. So you can be in conflict in cyberspace while you're competing with another country economically, but cooperating militarily. That is the complexity of what we're dealing with. So we need thinkers, we need staff officers, we need leaders who can really understand that environment and work out how to apply military effects in the best way that they possibly can in that challenging new environment. That's why accelerated warfare helps frame the type of environment we need to prepare for. It is an environment of continuous change, and hence I describe us as an army in motion, an army that is in perpetual motion. We've always changed, we always have. This is not the army of 1915. Indeed, it's not even the army of 2000. Right? It's always changed, it always will, and we need to be comfortable with that. We need to be comfortable with being in perpetual motion and always adapting. Right? So army in motion really describes that imperative to always be thinking about who we are in relation to our environment and what changes we might need to make, rather than defending the status quo, defending the past. Underpinning all of this change, of course, is good culture, good people. And that is why good soldiering is the third plank in this trilogy, if you like, of key strategic documents that we have for our army. The future, where we're trying to go, describing ourselves through a change mechanism of the army in motion, but grounded as army people, as teams, with a strong positive culture through good soldiering. Good soldiers, grounded in ethics, good character, good people, building strong, diverse, optimised teams to get the job done, whatever that job might be and whatever team that might need to be. We need to be comfortable with working with anyone, anywhere, to organise around a problem and to get that job done. And you're seeing that more and more. It is the new version of combined arms, not just three different combat arms coming together, but whoever, wherever to get the job done. And that's why that ability to work in diverse teams, that central culture of respect for everyone because of what they bring to the team, embracing that and leveraging that is such a powerful concept. So good soldiering, I'd like to think, is the key piece of this, and it is the framework for which I think this leadership framework will sit within. On the next slide, I also, and there's a couple of other key documents that we are about to release about our contribution to defence strategy so people understand where the Army fits into the broader defence plan. But you've also heard me talk about the 5 Ps. People at the centre. People are our Army. And I think every organisation would say that. But for us, it's particularly true. And we need to recognise that as everything is about, through, and delivered through our people. So people are at the core. We need to be prepared for that future, ready now and future ready. And if we want to be really at our peak, we need to be striving to achieve our potential as individuals and as an organisation. That is the aspirational target that we should be setting ourselves. How can I achieve my potential within this organisation? And quite often we can only do that because we're a closed system if we think about being more collaborative, more team-based, where we need to bring more people of the right skill set or the right attributes onto the team. We need to be thinking about partnership as a mindset. How do we build, how do we expand that team? Partnership, again, is a really powerful thing for our Army, which, if it's not careful, can think about only people wearing a green uniform can solve these problems. And you can see that by the people in this room, that we already know that that's not true, and what you bring to help us think about leadership is incredibly powerful. Right? So partnership is key. So partnering across the Army, across the Defence Force, across industry, academia, with other countries, you name it, partnering is a mindset that we need to be more comfortable with. It's grounded in those in the basics of teamwork and fundamentally about respect. And of course, we can never be who we are if we don't remind ourselves that we are a profession. The Army is a profession. Again, it's synonymous with good soldiering. It anchors us who we are as professionals and as a professional institution, which is all works to a set of standards and has a professional through-life learning focus. I think we do that. Those 5 Ps are a good way to think about all of the things that we do in Army. You can, whether it's at the individual or the section level, through to my level. I think about these 5 Ps all the time, how I bring things together to manage a strategy. But of course, this is incredibly complex, big organisations like this, so we need to think more as systems. And to bring this to life, we have 3 key operating systems within the Army now. We have People Capability System. The Army People Capability System is a very powerful organisation that brings together all the different parts of our people system, from recruiting, our purse policy area, TRADOC, career management, and inside the defence people group, so that we can think about things holistically. There's too many stovepipes in a big organisation like this, and we don't get the synergy out of our effort if we don't come together and think about systems. So the people capability system is a key plank to bring this together. We have a preparedness capability system, and we have a land capability system which effectively drives our modernisation efforts, right? And I run a strategic system to bring all of that together and make sure that it's all aligned. Okay, so bringing all this together, if you just go to the next slide, this accelerated warfare, the army in motion, some key tenets that come out of that. Continuous change, we need to be a learning organisation, we need to be comfortable with the cultural aspects of that continuous change, we need a strong professional military education theme and program running through our army so that we invest in the intellectual effort that underpins a learning organisation. And we need the practical experience and opportunities to grow beyond theory so that we can develop that leadership capability and capacity. So today, our current army leadership model, is it working? It seems to be. If we did nothing, I think we'd be fine. Everywhere I look, our people are doing fantastic things. I know that they are well led and we're delivering results. For me, that's not the question. The question is, could it be better? Well, first of all, do we even know what it is that produces those leaders? Is it well defined? Is it well understood? And can we measure it with the degree of science and rigour that we probably need? Could it be better? And will it be fit for the purpose in that accelerated warfare environment? With a changing demographic, changing technology, changing threats and opportunities, is our leadership model the best it could be? And I don't know the answer to that, but this exploration and having a formal program will assure me that it will be. So to me, this is an important leadership responsibility for me to make sure that I'm doing all I can to make sure that our people are well led at every level and that we can serve our nation with confidence and maintain their trust. So that is why I think this couple of days is going to be really important. And Brigadier Hoskin will talk about the work that he's done to baseline where we are. The work that they've done across the Army in engaging with different parts of our workforce, with our allies and partners, what their approaches are and what particular programs that they have. I think you'll find it really useful, right? And where do we sit within that? Okay, what could we learn? What can we apply? Given that we are unique, of course, with our context, there are things about leadership which are enduring. Doesn't matter which army you're in or which organisation you're in. Leadership is leadership. And I think we've just got to be really careful that we understand what's pure, what's doctrinal, what's theoretical for all leadership, and then what we need to build on that might be army specific for a specific purpose. There should be a thread of leadership theory and doctrine that is common across all the services as a minimum, and this will ultimately nest in the joint leadership program that General Ryan is working on out at the Defence College. All right, so what do I want from this is a system that consistently produces excellent leaders, and it is a system that can assure me that we are doing so. Pretty simple, and I think Director of Army Leadership's got it gripped up, but he'll be helped by the tremendous inputs from all of you when it's more than just these 2 days. It's an ongoing endeavour which needs to live every day in every part of the organisation. So it's a good program. I think all the different topics and sessions are spot on. There is plenty to talk about, and I think we'll bring together the various parts of our leadership framework well. A lot that can be debated, a lot that can be refined. Everyone will have a view, and that's the beauty of it, because no one's right and everyone's right. Okay? But what works for you in your organisation at that point in time to get the job done, but is consistent with Army's values, is really what's key to me. All right, I could talk all morning, but I won't, because I want to allow you some questions of me to get you warmed up before you ask Brigadier Hoskin lots of other questions.
Please.
Just down here.
Good morning, sir. Lieutenant Colonel Duncan George, Commandant, New Zealand Army Command School. Unfortunately, we can only afford 3 brigadiers, so that's why I'm a Lieutenant Colonel and a Commandant. And Agile, correct, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask, I had the privilege of doing a year's study here at Western Creek Australian Command and Staff College a few years ago. And one of the things we sort of talked about was the Australian spirit and the Australian way of warfare. And I wondered, is there a unique aspect to Australian leadership or Australian military leadership that differentiates it from anything else, within our sort of ABCA partner nations?
Yeah, great question. First of all, leadership is rank agnostic, right? So you might have a command appointment related to a rank for a purpose, but the leadership that you apply within that appointment doesn't matter what rank you are. We're all leaders at every level, including from below and within. So, if Brigadier Hoskin was to recommend to me that our Commandant could be a Lieutenant Colonel, that would be welcome. I could do with an extra brigadier somewhere else. But I don't think we'll need to do that, because it's a broad remit that I know our Commandant has, and one of the reasons, just to sort of go off on a tangent, because we take in RMC Kapooka and the Land Warfare Centre and here at Duntroon. So there's a thread of leadership development through those 3 schools that essentially sit here inside RMC, which makes this a very concentrated area to focus leadership development at the outset and with our junior leaders. So that's the reason that we have that. And it nests back up into through Forces Command into TRADOC and can proliferate across the Army. So that's the logic of why it's here. Hey, is there an Australian way of war? Look, I think national culture is really drives armies, and I think our Army, our Navy and Air Force, and it would be the same, I'm sure, with all armies. We are a reflection of the society in which we draw. So I think it's a broader question around who we are as a nation, and does our Army reflect that? And I sort of think it does. I'm pretty proud of that fact, actually. And we just like to help out. Don't get particularly fussed about certain things. We just want to make a difference, do our bit. Like to help the underdog, and get the job done. And if people get in the way, we'll give them a crack. But we just want to make a difference and be proud of what we do, and then come home. But we do the same here at home, by the way. Up at Townsville for the floods earlier in the year, and across North Queensland. Just amazing what our people do for each other. And to me, that's a bit that quite often we don't remind ourselves of, that anyone that helps their own people as much as they do on the other side of the world is a really important reminder for our society, for our nation, that who we are and what we are capable of. And we are capable of incredible feats of compassion, of courage, of just wanting to pitch in, accept enormous risk to help. And that was certainly on display. So I think we're pretty happy-go-lucky. Just want to make a difference, but also don't get in the way. I think that's a pretty good combination of attributes. And there's probably many others I could write, but they're the ones that sort of help, I think, define us. And I think that's why we can work well together. the ultimate form of partnerships. When I talk about the 5 Ps, ANZAC goes back a long way, right? Partnering with other countries is an important way of demonstrating a force multiplier effect, not just in pure mass, but in drawing on each other's strengths and what you can bring together, and you're stronger together. Any other questions? Yeah.
Good morning, sir. Paul Green, 1RTB. Just tapping on the Ready Now, Future Ready that you spoke about before. Every soldier we're required to be physically fit, able to shoot to a baseline standard through ARN shoots, RP3 alphas. In regards to being future ready, especially in now's the cyberspace warfare that you talked about before, what are we doing to have every soldier cyber or technology ready? So I look at every soldier, regardless of corps, having some baseline ability in cyber, whether it be basic courses from prevention techniques or even coding. So back to my original question, what are we doing to ensure every soldier cyber ready?
Yeah, a great question. And right, so this is, and there are many other things. Okay, cyber's pretty important, and there are probably many others. So how do we do that is a leadership question. So how do you change an army to go into new fields, right? And to develop new skills and new capabilities? And a big part of that is, well, what now don't you do? How do you make space for that? And just coming back to the leadership piece, because it's easy, we are going to, here at ADFA, that, cyber is a core part of the curriculum now. We are putting on special, as in additional cyber courses, and a lot of this is being done at the joint level so that we can leverage across the 3 services. So growing the base, so we've got the expertise, and looking at different trade structures now within RACIGs. There's a whole bunch of things that we are doing there to recognise and pile onto what will be a fundamental part of military operations and indeed national operations now. Right, so building the capacity and the capability for that, and I expect that in our army we'll have about much bigger weighting on information warfare than we currently do, and in some ways, in a deep future, it could even be massively disproportionate. But who knows? So how do we build the base? But what don't we do, right? So these are the leadership questions, right? Because it's easy just to say do more. But a part of leadership is discipline and keeping focused on what's important and priorities. And you can't keep doing more of everything without accepting a degree of risk. So what do you do less of? What are you prepared to accept risk with in order to weight that different main effort, right? Because everyone wants change, everyone thinks you're risk averse by not doing something, but then as soon as you tell them to do that, it's, the sky's falling in. This is that whole thing about change. It's hard. Getting from ready now to future ready is all about change. It's about doing things differently. It's about potentially making people uncomfortable because we're going away from the traditional paradigm or the comfort of what they know. And all of a sudden, what do you mean you're going to have less of this now? Or you're going to drop the standard on that or whatever. These are the things that are leadership questions and we need to navigate. So, 30,000 person army, I know, and a 15,000 person reserve army. How do I get more out of that? Well, first of all, I need to think about it not as 30 and 15, but 45. I need to harness every part of our army, regardless of what service category they are. And to me, there is enormous power in leveraging our reserve capability or our part-time capability. I want to get away from the word reserve, and it's sort of too binary, in my view. Full-time, part-time, and versions thereof, and how we mix and match that. And a big part of our deep cyber expertise will be in our reserve. It will be people that do this for a living and come and can provide an amount of time in a specific area with a specific expertise. And we should be comfortable with that. Right? Always need that spine of full time. And we've got some people in this room that are absolutely deeply expert in this and absolutely brilliant at it. It is a national capability and very proud of what they do, very impressed. But to me, this is indicative of the challenges that we'll face to be future ready. I know that we will need more people in air defence. I know that in our artillery, we'll go from firing the M777 out to, not very far, to all of a sudden potentially a long-range artillery system that can fire potentially hundreds of kilometres. Right? It changes the way we think and behave, and therefore the way we can manoeuvre and what options we've got as an army to deliver capabilities. So this is going to continuously change, and that's what I mean. It's not dramatic. It's evolutionary, but you just got to put a system in place, invest in our people, and then get behind them and lead at every level to deliver it. We've done that with amphibious. Right? Where we've got to in the last 10 years, but actually that's where it really started. But it's peaked in the last few years because it's built on the system that we put in place to grow to a point where on Talisman Sabre we're able to validate what is a world-class joint amphibious capability. Right? Seriously impressive. So this stuff can be done. It just doesn't happen overnight. It takes discipline and focus. It takes energy, and it means changing something. Because to bring something in new means something else gets reprioritised. And we just got to be comfortable with that.
Sir, if I may, we've got a lot of questions flying through on
from
Slido,
Slido?
so I
Yep,
might
bring it on.
try a technology one here. Stated as anonymous and no one's put their name to it yet, but we'll work on that one. Sir, do you have an opinion on how we can effectively measure leadership? I.e., we generally have an idea when we experience good or bad leadership, but how can it be measured? How can we say that our programs have improved leadership if we don't as yet have a way of quantifying it?
It's a great question, and it's really hard. And I think there's probably some smart people in the room that can help us answer that when you get to it during the next couple of days, because I would like to know. A lot of it's tummy rub, anecdotal. Okay, good leaders. We have a PAR system. We know a good leader when we see it, at least on the surface. But over time, you can sort of understand that. You see bad leaders; they stand out pretty well. Quite often, though, you don't see the bad leaders until too late, after there's been a lot of damage done. And the other sorts of things that I think having a better understanding of, how do we understand those negative aspects? And people may not even be aware of it themselves. Right? So helping people with self-awareness and be better leaders so that they can be positive, have a constructive influence on the organisation, but also mitigate the negative aspects across an organisation. Really difficult, and as we know, there's always data out there. It's just how we use that. Are we asking the right questions? Are we looking in the right areas? And how we get after that. I would really welcome people's views on that. And I think it will be a key output of the system, and it will need to then thread back through into potentially our training system and our career management system as a minimum, so that we can help people by understanding where they're at become better. As we know, you can't manage something if you can't measure it.
Good morning, sir. Captain Kate Clarkson from RMCD. My question is just in regards to, I suppose, drawing on your experience and your views with regards to leadership. Currently, it's offered through our training organisations, ACOTC and Soldier Career Courses as guided instruction and or bespoke PME opportunities. What have you seen from your experience, some of the best ways to bring leadership about, linking into your Ps in regards to profession and people within our own people, both from the soldier all the way through to the officer, in terms of bringing that leadership as a continuous training within various organisations, sir?
Yeah, no, thanks for your question. As I said, leadership is it's a journey, and you are learning every day. Leaders are learners and listeners. So always learning, always listening, always analysing those inputs, and then apply it through leadership. It's the theory and the practice piece. So where it's taught that's the theory piece, but having the opportunity and the courage to practice it, to back yourself, is really what we should be doing every day, because that's what we're expected to do. Look, I think by having a framework, by having a leadership system, will probably bring a bit more fidelity to where are the value add areas in someone's career, whether it be a time or a place, and how you do it differently at different levels. There's foundational leadership. I mean, gosh, I was a lieutenant fumbling around as well. I mean, you're always growing, but it's as long as you're always learning, reflecting, and improving. That's what leadership is. That's the self-leadership piece, right? It's not just doesn't happen by magic. So being disciplined about understanding yourself, know what your strengths and weaknesses are, do your own skills audit on yourself, and know where those strengths and weaknesses are, how to build on your strengths, how to mitigate your own weaknesses, and we all have them, and then how you apply them in your own way. But being true to yourself, I think, is to me, is what's really important. Everyone's different. Everyone's got their own style. People will flourish in certain environments, and that's the importance of leading leaders. You need to pick people for certain jobs. Leaders need to emerge in response to a particular problem, and good leaders let them lead, right? You don't need to be in charge all the time. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You need to give ground, give space to allow people who might have that particular skill set or be at the right place at the right time to get on with it. And to me, that's what leadership is. And that's innate. And that's why leaders set culture, that environment that allows that to flourish and grow their people. Leaders grow their people. And, that happens through life. And I hope that this leadership program will help give some impetus to that. So, hey, thank you again, everyone, for your participation, contribution here, as well as what you do every day out there in your day jobs. This is a great topic, and I think we will all get something out of it these couple of days, but also into the future. And I look forward to the outcomes of it. So thank you again. All the best.